Hello and welcome to CHIASPORA, the show where we interview those who left Chicago, but Chicago never left them. Today, we have an awesome guest. This buddy of mine, this guy, you have seen from Friday Night Lights, the show. You have seen him in Grad, which is actually where I originally saw him from. And now if you go on Netflix, you will see him on Midnight Mass. And if you like Criminal Minds, he did an amazing cameo, but it
was a bad guy.
It's a bad guy guest, but it was like it was featured. It wasn't just like a regular.
It was the whole season. I mean, they switched it up where it wasn't like a bad guy a week. It was a bad guy a season.
This is Zach Gilford, by the way. It was kind of interesting when I was seeing it unravel, at least on social media. I did not know that that's how it was done. Because I remember Criminal Minds was like every episode, new person, one person. And now...
Well, it jumped from CBS to Paramount Plus, and so because it was now streaming, they wanted it to be more like quote-unquote cable, which is what I think we used to say. And now cable, is there cable?
They're kind of
premium.
Yes.
So they wanted to mix it up and not do the, instead of 22 episodes a year, it was only 10. And it was kind of like Dexter in that, where there's like one
through line, like all the way
There's
through.
one villain that they're trying to track the whole time. And it was cool. It was a lot of fun. I know it was fun for them because after this was technically season 16, they got to change the way they did the show. And so it kind of put a little life, not that it was lacking life, but it gave them like a new life, and they all had a lot of fun. It's one of the nicest sets I've ever been on, and it was a blast.
And you get to work with a famous Chicagoan.
Oh my God, Joe!
Yeah, Joe Montana. Everybody.
Yeah, dude. Like I was starstruck, nervous, and because I was the villain, they were tracking me the whole season, so I wasn't working with them. Mm-hmm. So I really didn't get to know the cast. Luckily, they're so nice. And 4 of the actors direct episodes: Joe Montana, Adam Rodriguez, Aisha Taylor, and AJ Cook. So I got to know the 4 of them pretty well because they directed episodes I was in. And Joe he directed the 3rd episode. And I was so nervous. And the first time he gave me a note, I was like, oh, I'm a terrible actor. Joe gave me a note. Oh, no. Like, he wasn't just like, that was great. Let's move on. And I was so in my head. And that was the first day. And then over the course of the episode, I got to know him really well. And he is just, he's the best, man. He's such a Chicago guy. And I actually get to go direct an episode next season on it.
Oh, wow.
And
they give you that? That's cool.
I don't know how I convinced them, but...
was the note, hey, if you do this right, we're going to give you
we can move on. But yeah, I reached out to him and said, hey, I'd love to sit down and, just pick your brain about directing, any advice. And he's just like, anytime, let's figure it out. Like, and the whole cast has been that way, but it's just going from being nervous about getting a note from Joe to feeling comfortable texting him to go grab lunch or something.
That is awesome.
It's one of those meet your heroes, meet your idols, and they are better than you would have even imagined.
He exceeded the expectations.
He is like, he's Chicago, man. I mean, as an actor, when you grow up in Chicago, at least in our age range, and you say I want to be an actor, the first actor you're aware of is Joe Montana. He's a legend in Chicago.
There's a couple. There's like your Cusack, your Bill Murray's, and then there's Joe Montana.
Yeah, and Gary Sinise.
Of course.
But I've never worked with any of those people until now, and it was just such a great experience. And he's got a mouth like a Chicagoan, and he's just such a classy guy. There was a scene we're shooting towards the end of the season where it's late, and he's in a car, and he's like tied to the door, and they're like resetting up the shot. There's just downtime, and at one point, someone says, "Where's Joe?" I was like, I don't know. Where is he? Someone goes, I think he's still in the car. And I was like, oh my, are you fucking kidding me? No. And so I go to the car and open the door. I'm like, are you good? He's like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I fell asleep. It's warm in here. It's cold out there.
So he was chill
because
about
he couldn't untie himself.
Right.
And
he was stuck.
Unfortunately, he had been forgotten about. But he's just like,
Chicagoans roll with it. That's how
he rolls with it. He's not like, what the. Why is no one here letting me out, blah, 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 which some people would do. Not a lot, but he was just so chill and great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. By the way, hello to Joe. Funny thing is, people I don't know if people in Chicago knew this, but in LA, when I first moved out, it's no longer here, but he had a restaurant here.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Taste of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no longer there.
No, I know. He said, I asked him about it. He said, it just gets to the point where it's too much work. And it's, you're
running a restaurant. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I can't. I mean, this guy, I mean, I don't know how old he is, and he's so with it on top of it. I can't imagine being that with it on top of it and good of an actor at that age. And so, like, if you're carrying a TV show, and I know his wife mostly ran the restaurant, but still, it's like, I think she was like, I'm ready to retire. I think he's not quite ready to retire yet, nor should he be.
No, that's awesome. That's a cool story.
Yeah.
So I love to go back. I always love to know how people kind of get to where they get in terms of acting, because that was a thing that I, as a, growing up, you look at your filmmakers, you look at your, you look at your actors, like, how did they get from Chicago to LA? So go back. And
little like an origin story.
But what's funny is you and I have a very similar background in a lot of ways. I think you grew up like miles from me. Not like,
yeah.
So you grew up in Evanston.
I did.
And then where, you don't have to give me the exact address, but where specifically?
I lived on the northwest side. And my parents still live in that house to this day. So I went to Lincolnwood Elementary, and then I went to Haven Middle School, and then ETHS. And it's so funny, so many of my friends now have moved back to Evanston and live there, and it's idyllic. I think my wife can't be convinced. She's from Chicago as well, and she's like, I'm not going back to those winters.
Yeah.
Like, nope.
Yeah.
No. After being in LA, it's a little rough.
Yes. In fact, I was just telling a previous guest, when people say to you, hey, it's cold, but you're from Chicago, it's kind of like, but I'm not there anymore.
No, I disagree, though. I literally am the guy who walks around, on a set. They'll be like, do you need a dive coat? I'm like, it's 60 degrees. It's freezing. I'm like, no, it's not. I am fine. Like, I think because even if I'm cold, I refuse to take a warming coat because I'm like, this is, I would be driven out of Chicago if I, it's only 45 degrees. Yeah. That doesn't count as cold.
Well, everyone always knows, like in Chicago, as soon as it breaks even a little bit, like no more snow, people are out in shorts.
Oh, this is actually one of my favorite memories of Chicago. My wife and I said she's also from Chicago, but we were visiting home, and I think it was April. I'm pretty sure it was April, so it was the spring. And we went for a run along the lake, and it was the first day of sun. And we're in a sweatshirt and whatever, because it's not, I will say, it wasn't warm out, but there were people, shirts off.
Yeah, of course.
And like blindingly white. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, you're translucent. Because they're like, we haven't seen the sun. And I even, my friends, I always say, if you talk to them late September through almost April, I don't know. I hate my job. I don't know if I should be in this relationship. Life is hard. And then you talk to them April through, beginning of September. Life's great. This is amazing. I think I'm going to buy a boat. I'm going to figure out how to buy a boat. And you're like, what? And it's just, I guess they say vitamin D is a big mental thing.
Well, it's true. But the thing is, Chicago, there's that gap. When you were in school, it was always, let's just get to the summer. Once you can get to the summer, it's the greatest summers of all time. I always tell people, Chicago in the summer is the best.
Chicago in the summer is the best. Here's the weird thing about me, too, is I'm a vampire. Like, I hate the sun. So I spent a year and a half of the pandemic in Vancouver, and the winters are my favorite because it's basically, it's only light-ish.
Yeah.
From like 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., and it's raining. I'm like, this is great. Like, I love that it's still dark out when I take my kids to school.
I was going to say, how do you survive with children? Because the thing is, like, you have to be around her.
They don't care. Kids don't care. So, as long as you put on a raincoat and every kid has a muddy buddy, it's like, whatever, rain, it's fun. Let's splash in the puddles. And a couple of weeks ago, we've had all this rain in Los Angeles lately. We only have one car in our family, and my wife had taken it to work, and we're walking distance to my kid's school, and it wasn't raining when she left, and then it was downpouring, and I was thinking, great, I gotta get my kids to school. I was like, oh, we've got all the gear from Vancouver, so I put my kids in the rain gear. I put my rain gear on, my like hiking boots that are waterproof. I threw them in the wagon, put like a wool blanket over them, and we did the 15-minute walk to school, and everybody was happy, and it was like, oh, this is an experience as opposed to getting in our car to drive 3 minutes. And they now are getting to the point where my kids are 5 and 2.5. They'll quote unquote read a book together and argue about what it says.
Yeah, right. That's really funny and very, very relatable. Was ETHS essentially your first foray into any type of acting, or was that not even a part of it yet?
No, I did.
You also did camp stuff too, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of camp. I did a lot of like summer camp as a kid. I would go to this place called Camp Echo in Michigan every summer. It was a YMCA camp, and it was great. It was a great experience. It formed a lot of who I am and my interests. I'm a big outdoorsy person, but yeah, no, I'm trying to remember. I know I was in a school production of The Outsiders in junior high at Haven, and I don't remember. I know I was in like a community theater production of Aladdin, not a musical. It was weird. Instead of a Boo the monkey, I was a camel. There were 3 camels. I'm still friends with one of them to this day, and the other, I don't know what happened to him. And so, no, I did community theater stuff. I did high school plays. I did college plays. I never really did anything professional until I graduated college. And my parents were really supportive. As soon as I said I wanted to be an actor, they said, cool, you just get your degree and then you can do whatever you want. And you can study acting, but you finish college and then, there never was well, do you have a backup plan or whatever? I even at one point, because I studied education as well in Northwestern, and graduating, I was getting nervous about trying to be an actor. And that just seemed like, who do I think I am? Which I think is a very Chicago thing.
Well, it's a blue collar town. Yeah. It's kind of a weird thing.
And I had a job offer to teach high school. And I said to my mom, I don't know, maybe I should take this job. It's $27,000 a year, which seemed like a ton of money.
Well, we have nothing.
When you're a college student.
Yeah.
And I said, and I get health insurance. And she said, I thought you wanted to be an actor. Like, you worked so hard.
What a good mom, though.
Oh, they're great. And my parents are lawyers. They're not crunchy granola people, but they just said, like, you've always wanted to do this. You can always go back to being a teacher. Just go try. Like, you're 22. Just go fall on your face. It's fine.
What good parents.
No, I'm very lucky to have the parents I had. And definitely they're a huge part of the origin story. I wouldn't be where I am without them. And I'm very fortunate in that, they were able to provide for our family well. We were comfortable, which is
you have siblings?
Thing. I have 2 siblings. I'm in the middle between 2 girls.
And those girls, no actressing, no.
There's no actressing in them. I think my mom lived a little vicariously through me. But no, my older sister's an estate attorney, which I guess means you deal with like dead people's money. And
that is what it is.
Yeah. Very fun, exciting profession.
So they followed in parents' footsteps for that.
I feel like my parents are like more exciting lawyers. Sorry, I'm shitting on my sister, but whatever.
I'm sorry.
My dad was in like commercial litigation, and my mom actually got her law degree. My mom, I think she has 4 master's degrees, but she got her law degree and but she was getting her law degree at the same time she was getting her social work degree, and part of her studying was having to student teach actually at Evanston Township High School, and she worked with behavioral disability kids and kind of fell in love with that aspect of it. So she never practiced law, but went into being a high school social worker, and she was the head of the alternative school at Evanston Township High School, which was basically kids who had been deemed too disruptive to be in mainstream classes, so they had their own wing to themselves. And when I was studying education, got to student teach there, which was an amazing experience because it's kind of messed up in a way. And this is not on my mom. This wasn't her program, but to be like, you're too disruptive. We'll put you with all the other disruptive kids. Yeah. But, the upside, I think, is there were not a lot of kids in that school, so they could get more focused attention from the teachers. And, when you would sit down and spend time with them, they would get things, or you would see the kind of help or attention that they needed, and you could focus it to them, as opposed to saying, well, I have 25 kids in this class. I can't possibly focus all my attention on Joey because I have these other kids. Anyway, that's a whole rant.
Goddamn Joey. But it's always a Joey. But it's funny because, well, there's 2 thoughts I have that because if no one's ever seen Friday Night Lights, the matriarchy of the entire show is a social work teacher, a social worker, and usually dealing with the tough kids. So it's just kind of interesting. I'm wondering if you ever were like, man, that reminds me of my mom.
I think there might be aspects in a way,
I mean, I don't know.
I'm trying to think of it. I never thought about it. I think just because as a young man, my head was so far up my own ass, I wasn't thinking about my mom. But I have friends who literally have come to me and said, I never would have graduated high school if not for your mom.
Wow.
Or I wouldn't be alive if not for your mom. I have a profound respect and appreciation for what my mother did in her job, because she really cared for and helped a lot of young people.
That's awesome. So when you went to Northwestern, though, were people going, this guy's got it? Or was it more along the lines of like, you just felt like you were in the mass and you're just like, oh,
yeah, you're just one of the, I mean, you know.
No teacher ever like took you under their wing? They're like, no, this kid Gilford's got something.
No, there really wasn't any of that. You know, you did start to see like, oh, I get cast in most of the things that I go out for.
Sure.
But again, I don't know if it's me because I'm from Chicago or just me because of whatever. I didn't really have an ego about it.
You're like naivety about it. You're like,
well, I just felt fortunate. And I was happy, you know. And,
that's cool.
Yeah, and then they had this thing called the New Leagues. I don't know if they do it anymore, but at the spring of senior year, it's really actually kind of messed up. But we have a showcase in New York for agents and managers and casting directors. But they essentially make all the seniors who are interested in it audition. And they pick 10 seniors to get to do this showcase. And, you know, I've always been someone who I think has perspective. And there were actors who were amazing actors who were some of the best actors in our class who didn't get selected, and everyone's shocked, and it's really kind of messed up. But it's because they're trying to find the 10 actors who, when you walk out this door to New York, like these are agents and managers, you want to be someone that we can sell. Like you might be the best actor and you're playing King Lear in college, and you have that in you, and in college when there's no 67-year-old man to play it, you are the best, and you're weirdly believable, but you'll never get cast as that. And like maybe your time is going to come when you're a little older, or there's going to be this very specific part for you. So they kind of just want to cast the 10 most marketable actors. And then within those 10, there were some of us who still wanted to do King Lear or whatever. And I did a scene where I did 2 scenes. You got to do 2 scenes with 2 different scene partners. One of mine was 2 15-year-old boys throwing rocks off a bridge and talking about life as 15-year-olds, the way 15-year-olds talk about life.
Sure.
And another was, 20-something-year-old guy, after he's been caught cheating on his girlfriend in that confrontation.
Sure.
Just very like, can you see me on the CW?
Yeah, but like, it has to be very much in their wheelhouse of like, where can I put this?
And other people did things where it was like, I'm playing this 35-year-old, or I'm doing Angels in America, and they're so good, but it's like, I'm not. I think the people at the showcase are like, I can't see. I don't know what I'm supposed to sell you as, or so. I kind of had the perspective of like, I'm going to sell myself as like what people might sell me as.
Right.
And so I lucked out and got signed by an agent and a manager from the showcase and moved
straight
to New
out
York.
of college. Wow.
I was so lucky. Moved to New York and got it's preparation meets opportunity and a lot of luck sprinkled in. I got Friday Night Lights pretty soon after college, and that show turned into this weird kind of cult hit. It was never a hit. We got canceled twice. And
here's what's crazy: if you go on Netflix now, it came out on Netflix not that long ago, and I bet you have even a more. Are you?
People
it?
Love it. I mean, I don't know. So I'm doing this. You and I were talking about it. I'm doing this rewatch podcast of it, and I feel so.
Where can people see it? You should tell the world.
Oh, it's called. What do we call it? It took us forever to get the title right. Like we kept saying the title, but it's Not Only Football, Friday Night Lights and Beyond. And it's me and Scott Porter, who played Jason Street, and Mae Whitman, who's she's an amazing actress who both Scott and I worked with on other things, but she's branded herself the biggest Friday Night Lights super fan. So in rewatching it 15, 16 years later, because I haven't watched it since it aired, and I still haven't even seen the last season.
What?
It's a funny story. I've told it 1,000 times, so if anyone's heard it before, I'm sorry. It's just the truth. That's why I've told it so many times. My wife and I started dating during the last season of the show, and she had never seen it. And people were like, "You've never seen Friday Night Lights? You're dating the guy from Friday Night Lights? You've never seen Friday Night Lights?" And a lot of people were like, "You're dating the guy from Friday Night Lights? Oh my God, he's so hot." And she was like, "Oh, thanks." And they're like, "What's his name? Riggins?" She's like, "Oh no, I'm not dating that guy." They're like, "Oh, he's cute." But anyway,
You got downgraded within 5 seconds.
I would get downgraded all the time. But luckily, she hadn't seen it, so she didn't know. She just knew me and Taylor's people.
But you were QB1.
She didn't know that.
That's what I would just put on my shirt.
Yeah. Well, I actually was talking to someone. I was on my way over here. I was talking to a friend of mine I grew up with, and so Chicago. I was telling her about the podcast, weirdly enough, and I said, "Yeah, I'm doing this thing." She goes, "Wait, you're doing?" I was like, and I said, "Yeah, with Scott," and he played Jason Street. She's like, "QB1," and I was like, "I mean, some people say I'm QB1, but I guess technically he's the OG QB1,
from episode 1 QB1."
They couldn't even let me be QB1. So anyway, so my wife, she finally was like, "Okay, I'll check it out." And she was working in Miami at the time, and I was back and forth visiting her because we were newly in love. And I came to visit one time. She said, "I tried watching your show," and I go,
"The word try." She said the word try.
I said, "Oh." She's like, "I can't." Oh, man. She said, "I can't watch it," and I said, "That's fine. Like, cool." She goes, "It's good. It's really and that's the problem." She goes, "You're really good, and it makes me feel like a pedophile." Because I believe you as a 15. No, she said, "I believe you as a 15-year-old."
Oh my God.
And she's, I think she was like 31, 32. She's like, I can't watch you be a high school kid. Because it wasn't, at that point, it was only 4 years ago. It's not like we're watching it now.
Yeah.
So then when it started airing, I didn't watch the final season because it would feel weird and masturbatory to be like, "Hey, my show's on. I'm going to go watch myself."
Between 5 and 6.
I will be in the TV room watching myself. So that's why I haven't finished.
Did you ever get to do that at all? Even like an episode when it was going? No.
I mean, yeah, there were a few episodes I watched by myself, but I was home alone. I wasn't like...
It wasn't like grabbing popcorn with the fam.
It wasn't like, "Hey, wife, I'm going to go in the other room and watch myself." Like, hey, funny. This is like double entendre me time.
That is really funny though. But
So anyway,
but she eventually watched it, I assume.
No,
she never watched it.
Well, she was gonna rewatch it with me for this podcast, but then it was like, I have to, it's not just like, hey, I need to sit down and watch it and take notes. So I can't watch it at night as I'm falling asleep.
Well, if you're going to do a podcast about it, you
right.
have to do
but
that.
Also, we tend to film them in bulk because of our schedules. Of course. So we'll do 2 or 3 at a time. And, as parents, we don't, she doesn't have 3 hours to sit down and watch 3 episodes of Friday Night Lights with me. So she rewatched the pilot with me. And my favorite thing was watching it when Jason Street gets paralyzed, and then the game. She goes, "You guys just started playing the game again? Are you serious?" Which, by the way,
there's a true story. There's a documentary. This has happened in football, and they have had to carry on.
Well, they don't have to.
No, they don't have to. It's
we interviewed. It was one of the coolest moments of my career, to be honest. A couple days ago, we interviewed Buzz Bissinger, who wrote the book that the whole franchise is based on, and he even brought up unprovoked. He's like, and then they just he said that when he went down to do the book, he was watching a preseason game and a referee dropped dead on the field.
I remember that. And that was a long time. But I remember that.
And he said the coaches were like, "Can we get this guy off the field? Can we get him out of here?" And then they just replayed the game, and he's like, "Someone just died." And we're going to just keep playing a scrimmage, like a preseason football game?
I really think the times have changed a little bit.
Times have changed.
Remember what happened with the guy this year who he went into cardiac arrest?
Yeah. The Bills player.
Yeah, but they stopped the game.
They never rescheduled it.
Times have changed
Times have changed. And thank goodness, because
in Texas, I don't know.
Human life is more important than football.
I don't know. In Texas, I'm sure it probably would still, There's also this weird element, and I kind of get it, I kind of don't, but it's that hey, grab your bootstraps, we're gonna fight through this. It's awkward. Well, if someone dies, or paralyzed,
or gets paralyzed.
It's a very different. The
only way I could pitch it to her was well, we didn't know he was paralyzed. We just knew. We just like, he's hurt. Yeah, he's going to the hospital. What are your kids every game that some football player gets hurt?
I love how you're the one who has to defend the script.
Of course I did. It's my show. It's what made my career. It all could have been over right there. If they'd canceled the game, Matt Saracen never would have come in and thrown a touchdown. And then, where am I? Not here. Not on this podcast. No one would want to talk to me.
A couple of things before I forget to say them. I don't know. Total side note. Anytime I hear somebody say grandma, I think of you. It's so funny. hey grandma. It's hilarious because it's also funny. You kind of put on a little accent. But it was like subtle. Did they ever ask you to do that?
Well, no, I decided to do an accent, and I wanted it to be. I remember when we were shooting the pilot, we got rewrites of a scene, and I just had like a lot of lines, and I said to Pete Berg, I said, "Can I talk to you about the rewrites?" And he's like, "What?" And I said, "The rewrites, the new scene." I was like, "Okay, what?" Not that he's not nice, but you get it at the end of the story. I said, "I just feel like Matt has too many lines. I feel like he doesn't talk that much. Like he's
an introvert.
He's an introvert. He's quieter." He goes, "I don't read the rewrites. We're gonna shoot whatever we want. Those are just for the studio. Like, don't worry about the rewrites." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I wonder how much it's like I just didn't talk a lot at the beginning, and slowly the character started to talk more, and maybe it was like, oh, like.
Was the stutter your thing?
I don't know how that happened. It just sort of happened. It just seemed in character.
You did that all the way through. I remember thinking the first time, you had that like shyness to you, and I was just thinking. I'm always curious. Was that a director who said that? Was that you said that?
No, it was a script. No, it wasn't said anywhere. It just kind of was a thing that happened, and we had a lot of freedom. Like I said, Pete was like, "Don't worry about the rewrites. We're going to shoot what we want to shoot." To get away from the script, and not get away from the script in like what the scene is about or the intention of what's going on. But, after a couple episodes, knew Matt Saracen better than the writers knew him, in the sense that I know what words he would use in this situation. I get what you want this situation to be, and they trusted, you and Luann, who played my grandmother. You'll say the words and not go too far off track, and you'll get the point across. And our directors were great in understanding that too, and super helpful. So it was very unique. You don't get that a lot, and definitely in TV.
Yeah.
There was a lot of freedom and a lot of trust, which was really cool. And it's helped me. There was a moment where you mentioned, I don't know why the first place you saw me was Post-Grad, but that was the first movie I did after Friday Night Lights. The first job I did.
I love that movie, by the way. I love that movie. I don't know why. Well, again, Keaton's in it. He's my favorite. And
Jane Lynch,
and
Carol Burnett.
I'm blanking on the girl's
Dimitri
name.
Martin, Alexis.
Alexis. It's a great cast, but it was it was very heartwarming.
No, it was a sweet little movie, and to be honest, it was the director, Vicky Jensen, who was amazing, and I'm pretty sure she directed Shrek 2. Anyway, this was her first live action, and she had a much more indie artsy take on the way the movie was going to go, and that's what she shot. And then the studio came in and was like, no, this is a studio movie, and kind of Frankensteined it into something. And the movie is like fine and fun and cute and like no problem, but you'll see it a lot. You won't realize it unless you're a part of it. You shoot something with the intention of it being one thing. And this is actually what I love about this business is everybody's thumbprint is on it.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, that's something I always tell people. Like, you think it's a director. Is it? No. Like a cinematographer can,
a sound editor.
Someone just goes, hey, we should do that. And then it changes everything. Mm-hmm. But that's cool to me.
No, that's what I love. It's so collaborative. And that's why egos aren't allowed, in my opinion, because whether you're the star or the director or whoever, you're not, there's no world in which you can determine exactly what this is or how it turns out. But with Post-Grad, when I got there, it was my first job after Friday Night Lights, where we never rehearsed. If we were shooting a scene in this room, we would show up and say, you good, cool, action, and you just shot the scene.
Just no time, budget, what?
No, it was just the style. And it was 3 handheld cameras on everything, and it was like, go for it. And be like, cool, I like this, that was good. We'll try it again. Maybe in this take, do that. And sometimes the other thing we would do is in the middle of a take, a director would just yell from behind the cameras, like, go over there, or like, say this, or like, give her a hug. And because of the way it was shot with the 3 handheld cameras, we could edit around it. And then like with the next take, which was never exactly the same.
But doesn't that fuck you up?
No, it's the best.
You were cool with that.
It's the best ever.
Well, the reason I ask that is like sometimes I've done a little acting. If in the middle you're like in it, obviously it depends on the scene, right? You're
Yeah.
not in the middle of this like very, very sensual scene. All of a sudden you go, hey, take your pants off. Yeah, you can't do that. But
no, I mean, it's always makes sense. And it's just because it's going to make the scene better. And Pete Berg, who created it and was originally an actor, he's kind of improvising with you. Like as the director, he's like, oh my God, I know what can make this scene better. So why am I going to go through a whole take just to change it later.
No, but that's cool to know that. Well, again, you have to have people who are on board a little bit. There are different
I mean,
people.
for us, it was, we all really never worked. You had to be on board. That was the way this show worked. It's not like we've been doing the show one way for a year or 8 episodes and some random director comes in and is like, I'm going to do this different.
But did she tell you up front? Was she like, hey, just so you know, I don't want to rehearse. I just want to get in there.
Oh, I mean, that's just how it was. Like, I didn't know. It was my first job. So, like, going in, it was like, cool, this is how it works? Okay. I mean, during my audition, my test for the network, it was a scene with me and the grandmother. And Pete was like, I'm going to read it with you, okay? And I was like, sure. And he does the first 2 lines with me and then just starts improvising and making shit up. And I had to just, like, go with it. And that's kind of, I mean, the audition process was that way for everyone because I think he knew, I want to be able to do this on set, so I'm going to see who can do this without even telling them that's how we're going to do it.
Cool.
But then I go to post-grad. It's a studio movie. And they're like, okay, so here's your mark. And I literally said, what's a mark? I don't know what that is.
Wow, they didn't do that at all on your show.
We didn't have any marks. There was nothing. And they said, at one point, the camera guy said, hey, we're really tight on this one. So, like, just try not to move a lot. And I was like, what do you... I literally was like, what do you mean? Well, he said, well, it's hard to keep you in frame. I'm like, you move the camera. Like, you just follow me. And they're like, no, it's on a dolly and yada yada. I was like so confused, but I would say to Alexis, who had been doing Gilmore Girls, which was the exact opposite of our show.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? She's like, it's a mark. It's like where you stand so the lights hit you, right? And I was like, oh my God. Like,
you have to let people know. If no one's ever seen Friday Night Lights, the whole thing feels like it's kind of documentary style, a lot of handheld.
It's all handheld.
And so that element of it is things are moving around and the camera just catches what it catches.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, post-grad, it's a film. It's a Hollywood film. So, yes, you will have track. You will have dolly. You will have that. You'll have Steadicam. But it's just so funny. Where's my Mark? I haven't met him yet. Okay. That's crazy.
No.
That's crazy that you didn't know what that meant.
I had absolutely no clue. And was very embarrassed and wasted a lot of time moving when I wasn't supposed to.
Wow.
I finally figured it out, and I've now hit my groove of understanding how much to be like, you can follow me with the camera, or like, okay, I'll stand still on this one.
Well, it's funny because, like, I've seen a little bit of Midnight Mass. That's very stylized, and that's very, like, I'm sure you have to hit marks at certain points.
Yeah.
You know?
But, it's, Mike's awesome, Mike Flanagan. I've had the complete pleasure of working with him 3 times now, and you get emailed the shot list the night before you shoot. Which is like, I mean, you could probably, if you asked him for it, you could have the shot list before you even start filming the whole project. Like, he's that prepared. However, so you get there and it's like, he's planned out every shot and how it's going to go. But if you say, you know what, I kind of feel like my character would be doing this, he'd be like, okay, cool. Like, if he agree, he'll say, we'll switch it up. And he on the fly will be like, cool, that means we're going to get rid of this shot and that shot. And I'm going to add this shot. And he's just super, like, he's super collaborative, and I don't use this word with a lot of people. He's a genius in what he does, and it was really cool. And getting to work with him on 3 different projects was fun because they're different.
What did you work with them?
I did Midnight Mass with him, and then after that, I did a show called Midnight Club with him. Weirdly, both midnight in the title.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's on Netflix too.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then I did a show that I think will come out in October called The Fall of the House of Usher, which is different than most of his stuff. And I think it's going to be, I mean, the scripts and everything was really fun, but I think audiences are going to really dig it. It's basically Edward Allan Poe meets Succession.
You're doing so many weird, like, you've gone literally from this, like, reality style, which wasn't reality, it was all narrative. Right. But then to a little bit of comedy and romance, and then now it's all horror. A lot of horror.
I mean, I guess that's who hires me. Like, I don't even know. I'm like, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it doesn't matter to you, but it's all fun and games. But it's just like,
well, it's fun too. I mean, the weird thing I've come to terms with also, very Chicago. My mom, like, I booked a job and she's like, oh, it's not another horror thing, is it? I'm like, thanks, Mom. It's a job. You want your grandkids to be provided for?
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting paid, Ma.
I don't get my pick of whatever job I want to do. But
well, not yet.
Not yet. And I can turn things down if I want. But I've come to learn that horror is just such it's like the biggest umbrella genre. a thriller is horror.
It's
slasher
fun.
film is horror. A vampire movie is horror. Like Midnight Mass is by no means horror, but it's
thriller.
somehow
It's thriller-ish.
Yeah, but because it's a thriller, it's
Right.
horror.
Right. I mean, it's also psychological in there
Yeah.
too. So I want to just tail back a little bit because from Chicago, I know you're a sports guy. I know that you're a fan of at least the Bulls. But
Oh yeah, Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, White Sox. Not a Cubs fan. Sorry, everyone. However, I do more closely follow the Bulls and the Bears because when my wife and I got together, she was like, "This is too much sports."
did you meet her in Chicago?
I met her in Chicago, but neither of us had lived there for years.
So you both just came back at the same time from LA?
We were both shooting a pilot that shot in Chicago together.
Oh, that's cool.
Just randomly, and neither of us had lived there for years. So it's kind of fun that Chicago is not only our hometown, but it's like this romantic meet cute.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. I proposed to her. We were home for Thanksgiving when I proposed to her, and I took her to literally the first place I ever saw her.
Where was that?
Which was at City Hall. We were shooting in City Hall, and I remember.
I was about to say, it'd be like, is it
But it's like beautiful. I mean, in Chicago architecture,
Yeah,
it's just no, right,
because of the statues and stuff like that.
and like all this stuff. But like, I'll never I always remember she was standing in an elevator bank with a coffee, and my wife's like, you never think of it. She's a little person, but she has such a big personality. I think that people think of her as taller than she is. But I do remember before I heard her utter a word, she had a large, or whatever they call them from Starbucks,
Venti.
a venti.
I don't know. I just made that.
And it just looked huge in her hands. And I was like, "Hey, I'm Zach. Nice to meet you."
That's your first memory?
Oh no, because I
Starbucks.
remember seeing her, and then so I took her back. I put her in the same elevator bank, and I was like, "I love you," blah, 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 and got down on my knee and asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And then we're like hugging and kissing. I love you. And then a security guard comes up and goes, I don't know what's going on here. Congratulations, I guess. But whatever you're doing, you can't do it here. So I'm going to have to ask you to go. And we're like, okay. So then we sheepishly, awkwardly, hand in hand walk out of City Hall. And, it's November in Chicago. It's cold. And we're like, we're engaged. Let's get inside somewhere.
I don't care. Get out. Dude, that's cool, though. I mean, the reason I said that is I thought you were about to say something like, I took her, I was on Lake Michigan. It was this grand thing.
Yeah.
It was like, we're in an elevator here, okay? And I got on one knee, and I got stopped by a security guard.
I think I fell in love with my wife when we were, I think it was the day after St. Patrick's Day. I'm pretty positive. And her and I went for a run, and she said, I smell like a dead raccoon's vagina. I was like,
That's how you know.
fair enough. Thanks for being honest. I love you.
How long were you dating for at that point?
At that point, I don't think we were even dating yet. We kind of thought we were best friends for a few days, for a week or so, and then we realized we were in love. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long did you date before you got married? Did you get married in Chicago or
no,
here?
we got married up in Sonoma in California wine country. We dated a year and a half, 2 years, something like that.
We got married at Navy Pier.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll show you a picture after this. It was that. It's so funny. It was the most Chicago, there were fireworks. It was crazy. And that just so happened to be because that day, that Saturday night,
Oh, cool.
there was fireworks at Navy Pier.
There you go.
But I was going to ask you real quick because you were talking about sports. You play a football player, but you didn't play football in high school, did you?
Not in high school, but I played growing up, and I was
Like Pee Wee or just friends?
No, like Pee Wee and I don't know, I forget what it was called, in junior high and stuff. I mean, I love sports. I've always loved football, and I've always been an athlete, not the most gifted one, but
okay.
I always would.
You got on TV and you were the star quarterback.
I got to be,
You did.
but luckily I was someone who knew how to throw a football. Doesn't look awkward running.
Yeah.
So it was easier to fake it.
Yeah.
It wasn't all my double. It was probably 60-40 as opposed to
I saw you
90-10.
chucking a ball or two. I'm always curious by athletes who eventually, one of my favorite movies is Moneyball, and you just watch these players. I'm just like, how much are these people when they're cast? They're like, he's a great actor, but he can't throw a ball.
Well, I mean that happens, and it's.
So I'm saying for you, did they actually have to audition you to throw a ball?
No, they didn't, and which was so funny because Pete had told us there were a couple characters where he got burned on the movie.
I'm sure.
But football's easy because there's a helmet on, so you just as long as someone's the same body type.
Sure.
I mean, when they got my double, because they had like this whole football team that was going to be the football team, and I got cast, and I apparently looked at my measurements, and they said, okay, who's the smallest white dude here? As this guy, Jason Hunt, who we became really great friends over the time we were there. But we looked alike, and like he was a little bigger than me, but it just, it's good. You know, you throw a helmet on someone, and who knows the difference? And then you come in for a close up through the face mask, and we love doing it. So all of us, me, Taylor, Gaius, Jesse, when he started playing, you know, we love playing football. So we would do as much as they would let us. And whereas I feel like on a lot of things, you know, it'd be boring to give a handoff or whatever. We always were like, I'll do it, which I think made filming a little easier and go a little quicker because they didn't have to make sure not to catch the double's face because it was like, yeah, Zach can hand it off, or if it doesn't matter if this throw lands in someone's hands because all we're seeing is him throw it, like Zach can let Zach throw it because he looks like he can hit me because he can throw it. He can't necessarily throw it into the wide receiver's hands, but he can throw it away from himself.
That's really funny though.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool. I was always, you know, you always watch these things and every production is different. Yeah. Every director is different. And because you're in TV, there are multiple directors all the time.
Yeah.
Like when you go to Bears games or anything, after that show, did anybody ever say, we got to get this guy down on the sidelines to do something?
I mean, there's been plenty of tweets and stuff that were, you know, especially with Bears football, they were like, can we get Matt Saracen in here? Like, Jesus, you know. I mean, now thank goodness for Justin Fields.
Yes.
But, yeah, I mean, I've been really fortunate to get to go down on the field sometimes or, like, go down on the court at a Bulls game. And it's so, you know, I'm just such a fan and just like a kid when it happens and so thankful.
That's awesome. Would you say you get noticed more here or in Chicago?
Sometimes it happens like a lot in a week, and then there'll be months where no one notices me, which is totally fine with me. But who knows? You know, I think in LA there's a bit of people don't really say anything.
People leave you alone.
And in Chicago, people get a little more excited, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Which is cool and great, but it like people in Chicago sometimes they'll be like, this is my favorite story actually. So my rule of thumb is I never lie to people, but I also don't just like volunteer it. Point being, if someone says,
hey, are you that guy?
If someone says, are you? I say yes. But so often when people say is, you look just like that guy from Friday Night Lights. I'm like, oh, crazy. I don't say, well, because I am. I was like, oh. But in Chicago, one time someone was like, you look just like that guy from Friday Night Lights. I'm like, oh, no way. They're like, no, like exactly like him. I'm like, I know. Do you get that a lot? I'm like, I've gotten it before. It's nuts. You look exactly like him. I'm like, yeah, that is nuts. Are you? Are you that guy? I'm like, yeah, I am. You're a fucking liar. And they walk away. I was like,
was he drunk?
I was just like,
sounds like a guy coming out of a bar.
I know. It was just so weird. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm a liar.
He just walks away. While you're like, you pulled out the Sharpie already. You're like, I'm ready to go if you are. That's hilarious. Again, I do think that people, you know, from your hometown, and you probably visit at least once a year, maybe.
I mean, because of the pandemic, I haven't been back since before the pandemic. But
for holidays and stuff.
No.
Thanksgiving? No, you don't go back.
No. I mean, why would you go to Chicago for Christmas?
I do it almost every year.
No.
Yeah.
I want to go to Chicago like.
I go once in June and I go once in December.
I want to go in like May.
Yeah. No, it's good.
I don't want to go for a holiday. I don't like traveling at the holidays.
Well, you got little kids too. Also.
No, I got 2 kids. It's different when you're just a person, but traveling with kids is a whole ordeal. You have 3, you understand, but yeah, it's just a lot. I mean, I miss it desperately, and I want, you know, I took my daughter there a couple times.
That's the older one?
Yeah, before the pandemic, and it was so cool to see her at like Grant Park and at the Bean and like wherever, like, and just watch her walk around Chicago. So I miss it. It's just right now. I think we're just in that phase where everything's an ordeal, and I'm like,
Well, if you guys ever check out, and you should follow him on Instagram, you put up hilarious stuff of just like your daughter's playing or something, and you're just like, time for bed,
the homework.
Yeah. I find that so funny because it's a very relatable content.
Yeah, but, I mean, I play into it. I love doing homework with my daughter. She loves, her biggest brag on me, and she tells her teacher all the time is, hey, Miss Molly, did you know my dad used to be a teacher? Like, she's so proud of the fact that I used to
She
be a
doesn't care
teacher.
about the acting thing.
No, she doesn't even. It makes no sense. I was watching an episode of Friday Night Lights for the podcast, and she came home and I was like, "Hey, you want to see Dada? Like what he did, like his job, what he used to do when he was younger?" She's like, "No, I don't care." Is it Paw Patrol? No, I'm good.
Then you're out. You're out. No, my daughter, I do stuff on TikTok, and once in a while you get like a nice viral hit, and she'll always ask, "Daddy, how's that video doing?" I'm like, "How do you know what's going on?" She's like, "I heard you talking to mommy." I was like, "Oh, it's fine." She's like, "How many likes?" I was like, "Please, I don't need you to care about this." Like, it's not like it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
No, but
matter.
my daughter also, like, she loves to sit and watch me make an audition tape. I mean,
That's cute.
No, it's so cute. But like watching me do it in person, she's interested in.
Yeah.
But watching the finished product, she's like,
no, but she likes the process. She likes the process. She feels like she's like in on it. Like,
yeah, Dad, do I really need to stroke your ego and watch your show that you made when you were 24? We get it. It was a cult classic.
But there's an element of like when you have kids, at least for me, I love creating or whatever. But if they're like interested at all in what you're doing, it's just like an extra pleasure. It's like, man,
when your kids are proud of you. I mean, my daughter is like the sweetest. She's going through this phase where, I mean, before I left, she was like, Dada. I was like, yeah. She said, come here. So yeah, she goes, you're the best.
Oh,
I was like, oh, I love you. She's like, I love you too. And then she like went back to whatever she was doing.
Paw Patrol. Real quickly, so you have a show coming up. You do have another show. It's like you said, it's going to be.
I have a Netflix show that's going to come out. Who knows when? I'm guessing around Halloween.
What's the
fall? The Fall of the House of Usher on
of
Netflix. And then I'm going to start working on season 2 of Criminal Minds Evolution for Paramount Plus.
So they're bringing you back for this whole thing.
Yeah, bringing me back
and directing.
And then. Those are the things that are like definite, and a few things that are like, I mean, it's like, who knows? I'm maybe gonna do this, maybe gonna do that, but until I'm there, I never kind of put too much stock in it.
Well, I one day hope to be able to give you a call and say,
I hope so too.
We have something else.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a blast.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, check you out. You want to plug your socials?
I'm one of the most boring follows on Instagram. It's at Zach Gilford 7. Which people are like, why 7? I'm like, someone already still at Zach Gilford. And then, I'm on Twitter. I think I'm at Zach Gilford. I'm never on there. I'm very rarely.
You're not on TikTok. You're not on any of that.
I'm not on any of that. I just don't. I've never cared. A, and B. I don't feel like I have time.
I understand.
I
understand.
So, people do it. It's not in my. I think also like I missed the boat. I think I was so obstinate about it for so long that I never like got in, and now it's so. Like I had to get on Instagram for my podcast. Like that made me. No, I have nothing against it. No, I have no judgment about it. But they were like, you need to start an Instagram for the podcast. I said, okay. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. They said, post this to your reel and tag these things. And
it's literally like saying, where's your mark?
Yeah, no. And I'm like, and I've sort of figured it out. And I'm also like, I don't care. And now when I'm like, why am I watching someone do a jump rope routine to pop music? And my feed is so weird. And I told my wife, I'm like, I have the weirdest feed. Like, I was like, I thought Instagram was all like hot chicks and whatever, but apparently all the algorithm says I'm cared about. All I care about is cooking, which I am a big cooker. I don't know how it figured that out. And like jump rope and like travel stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't even understand. I'm like, but I keep clicking on these things. Like, why? I don't care about people jump roping, but it's kind of like, wow, that's good jump rope.
Well, there you have it, everybody. If you ever want to jump rope for him, just show up on his Instagram feed.
Yeah, just DM me with your jump rope videos.
Well, dude, thanks so much for coming on, and feel free to check out all the things that Zach's got going on. Thanks a lot, dude.
Cool, dude. It was a pleasure.
You too, man.